Hello everyone, welcome back to the booktube channel. I'm really excited that I'm just gonna be posting so many more book videos next year. So let's talk about my wrap up for this year, 2024, and maybe a couple of reflections or things that I want to do for my reading year next year. So I got these questions from Goodreads, which I don't actually use Goodreads. I don't like the user interface on that app, nor do I like Amazon as a concept. And yes, I know I have a Kindle, but that's the only Kindle that I plan on buying for the rest of my life, honestly. So anyways, they just have really good prompts for end of year wrap ups. So I'm going to be using those questions and kind of going through my books, my stats, my thoughts. And yeah, that's it. So get your Storygraph out because that's the app that we should be using. I can do a whole video on why I think Storygraph is a superior app to Goodreads, but I'll save that for another time. Get your TBRs out because maybe you'll find a couple of new books that you want to read for next year. Who knows? And in the comments, I would love if you wanted to answer along for some of these questions or just give me your favorite book or couple of books for this year. And if you are an avid watcher of this channel, you would know that this is an odd background. I'm actually staying at a very good friend's house in Connecticut, and I'm just like looking out onto this beautiful, rainy, cozy, gray day in the countryside, and I'm just like living my best life right now. So anyways, without further ado, let's get into the video. Question number 1, an unpopular book that you love. So I just went on Storygraph and saw which of the books that I really liked had the least amount of reviews, and it's actually one of the most recent books that I read, and it's called Last Call at the Local by Sarah Grunder Ruiz. It's the third book in a romance interconnected standalone series, and the two lead characters, the female main character has ADHD and the male main character has OCD, and I cried like 2 or 3 times while listening to this book. I just loved it so much. The male main character is Irish, so listening to that, I was just like, yes, yes, yes. It was incredible. I really enjoyed that book. The whole series is definitely more like, I don't want to say like traumatic romance, but like each of the characters really has some like serious shit that they've gone through, and it's definitely really interesting. I definitely prefer a romance that leans more towards literary fiction than like just pure fluffy nothing romance. Not to say that I don't enjoy that, because I absolutely do, but when it has a little bit more for you to sink your teeth into, that's my thing for sure. I like that. Also, I just want to show you how cute my nails are. I did them for the holidays, and there's a little wreath on my finger. I just wanted to do something fun and cute. Anyways, next question. An overhyped book, in your opinion. This is about to get me a lot of enemies, and I know that. And I think part of the reason why I didn't rate this book very high is because I was in a reading slump at the time, or like just getting into one. It was after I read, I'm pretty sure, the ACOTAR series, so I was kind of like forcing myself to read something else. That whole series kind of like gave me a bit of brain rot in a way. Like I definitely had a good time, but it was definitely like not, I don't know, it's like a whole thing. Like looking back, I'm just like, did I enjoy those books as much as I thought I did in the moment? The first one was fun, and then the second one was good, and then it really just started going downhill after that. Anyways, that's my thoughts on the ACOTAR series. But I read The Secret History right after / in between all of that, and I just did not vibe with it. I'm so sorry to everyone that loves The Secret History. It's obviously a classic for a reason. For me personally, I don't always do well with no plot, just vibes kind of books. And this one, especially after coming off of the like cotton candy that is the ACOTAR series in terms of like how easy it is to read and digest, it just like whoop, flew right over my head. I did not like absorb that book properly, I don't think, and I just did not enjoy it very much. I found the characters to be pretty unlikable, which is sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. And the main character was just kind of annoying to me in terms of just like, he was so apathetic, and I was just like, Okay, and what? Like, do you even care about anything that's going on right now? Yeah, so that's definitely one that like I would probably want to reread that at some point in my life to see if I really just didn't enjoy it the first time or if I was just not in the right headspace. But unfortunately, as of right now, my opinion is that that book is overhyped because I feel like it didn't do what it said it was going to do. I don't know. I just feel like there could have been more about the whole murder and like things leading up to it or after. I don't know. It felt a little too vague to me, but that's just my opinion. But again, I apologize. I will give it a second chance. I will. But as of right now, I think it's a bit overhyped. I'm so sorry. Please don't hate me. I'm willing to take some of the blame as my own, okay? Anyways, next one is, I'm looking down at my notes, by the way, in case you're wondering what I'm doing. The next question is your favorite main characters of the year. Now, this one's really hard because I feel like I love so many of the characters that I read about this year, including Last Call at the Local with our cutie little ADHD and OCD main characters. I really, really loved them a lot, but I think I can't narrow it down. I think it's like the top 3. Jack and Rain from Last Call at the Local, Misery and Low from Bride by Ali Hazelwood, and Nora and Charlie from Book Lovers. Really good vibes. All of those books are like near 5 stars or like 4.75 stars for me personally. And I just loved the characters so much. Okay, next question is a new favorite author that you discovered this year. And I would say I can't narrow it down to just one, so I'm gonna go with 2. And that would probably be Ashley Poston and T. Kingfisher. I truly enjoyed every single book that I read from both of these authors throughout the entire year, and I cannot wait to read more of their books. I'm just really excited for my future reading endeavors, and I'm very excited that I found them this year. Moving on to the next question, which is most frustrating book you read this year. And if you watched the reading vlog that I just posted, pretty much all of the books in that reading vlog, but especially You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose. And you know what? I'm sick of talking about Geneva Rose in these freaking reading wrap-ups. She does not deserve the breath in my lungs at this point. So yeah, don't recommend reading her books ever. They're just not well written and the twists are so not good. They just come completely out of nowhere. You are literally in a first person POV stream of consciousness situation with all of her characters, and then these people who you're literally in their head seeing their every thought, they are keeping things from you and then revealing something at the very end, and that's the twist. And then when you go back and think about all the things that they've said and done, it does not line up with the twist. So that's not good writing. That's just a cheap trick in my opinion. And also I found out Geneva Rose on this book has a quote from Colleen Hoover on there. So immediately, whoever has a quote on a Geneva Rose book, I don't trust you. I don't trust you. I don't trust your opinions about books. I'm so sorry, but like, I don't trust your reading taste. I know that's really mean, but that's just my personal opinion. So if you really like Geneva Rose, first of all, this is not the channel for you, because I am a known hater of her. I'm so sorry. I'm not a hater as a person, but I do not like her books at all. That's all I have to say about that. I'm done talking about this woman. I swear to God, I'm done. Okay, that's it. That's the last you're going to hear about Geneva Rose from me, okay? Moving on to the more statistical elements of this questionnaire. The longest book that I read this year, that was A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. And yeah, it was like 700 something pages and it was very long. I kind of want to read more long books next year to kind of just like dive in. I would really love to read more fantasy next year because I feel like I was just dipping my toes in the water this year. And I know that a lot of fantasy books are just like really, really big. So I'm like, fine, let's go. With my Kindle, I don't know how big it is anyway. So I could read Priory of the Orange Tree, that brick of a book, and not feel intimidated. So I'm ready to do that in 2025. Okay, next is longest audiobook you listened to, which was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I think the audiobook was like 18 hours or something like that. I listened to it while I was doing laundry at work, and incredible, especially because Miss Julia Whalen is the one that read that book, and wow, the way that everyone always says she's one of my favorite audiobook narrators, I get it. I understand now. I so understand. I read one of her books last year, which was Thank You for Listening, which is about an audiobook narrator actually, and I would love to listen to that book because I'm pretty sure she narrates it as well. So shout out to her. Read that book. I loved that book. It's probably one of my favorite romances that I've read. Also kind of leaning more towards literary fiction, women's fiction vibe. Anyways, next question is the shortest book that I read this year, which was This Is How You Lose the Time War by Max Gladstone and Amal El-Matar. This one was like less than 200 pages, if I remember correctly, and I have mixed feelings about this book because I really wanted to like it so much. And again, I've kind of read this book while I was in a bit of a reading slump, and it was hard for me to push through it even though it was so short. Like, this is a book that I want to reread because I don't think that I gave it the mental energy that it deserved. And so many people like it so much that I'm like, why did it just not click for me? I don't know if it's because I spread it out too much and I kind of just like lost the plot a little bit, or that I just wanted more from the book, because I feel like it was so short that I wanted more from it. I wanted more from the sci-fi elements. I wanted more of the world building. I think for me as a person, I'm not a huge short story or novella person because I just really like to get immersed in a story. So having something that's so short, it's hard for me to really get super connected to it. But again, I want to give this book a second chance because I definitely still kind of have mixed feelings about it. Okay, now on to the shortest audiobook that I listened to this year. That would be The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning by Margareta Magnusson. And that was like 4 hours and something minutes, super short. I literally listened to it within a shift at work and I cried like 1 or 2 times while listening to it because it's a really sweet little book about decluttering and how your possessions can mean something to you, but also how stressful it can be to get rid of these things when you're older and don't have anyone else to help you do so. It's definitely a really good book to listen to if you're on the older side and you don't know that much about decluttering and minimalism, or if you are interested in decluttering and minimalism and hearing a bit more about how you can help your own friends and family with that, or just like a bit more inspiration in your own practice of that. I definitely recommend that book. It's super short, really easy, great little listen. Definitely recommend that one. The next question is what your favorite cover is of the year. And honestly, I was looking through the covers of the books that I read this year and none of them are that exciting. Like, if I'm being completely honest, I didn't read that many fantasy books, and I feel like fantasy usually has really beautiful covers, and I didn't read that much literary fiction, unfortunately, and those always have really banging covers as well. So that's kind of sad, but I think probably the most beautiful cover, just in like the way that it's so striking, is One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. And if you watched the reading vlog that I did for that one, you'd know that I kind of have mixed feelings about that book as well. It's a little bit no plot, just vibes, kind of like mob dueling families situation. I was definitely, I think, going in with a little bit too high of expectations, which might have just been my fault, and that's probably why the book didn't resonate with me as much. But that book kind of flopped for me, unfortunately. I felt like it just kept going around in circles about, oh, the honor of the family and the blah 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 whatever, and it just like did not hit for me, unfortunately. So yeah, that's the prettiest cover of the year, but not the best book for me personally. And then a book that you haven't stopped thinking about, probably The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I don't know what kind of crack that lady laced up in that book. I don't know, it just spoke to me. I know that some people don't like this book and think that it's really annoying and cringy and whatever, but for some reason, the magical realism romance genre of book is just like so up my alley. But genuinely, I can't stop thinking about that book and how it made me feel. I just remember feeling so giddy and like sparkly when I was reading that book. Like so many of the quotes were just so beautiful. I was highlighting so many of the lines. It was talking about life, loss, love, just all of those feelings and how they intersect and how they make up your day-to-day life and just walking around New York City, like all these things. I don't know. I think sometimes I have very mixed feelings about living in New York City. I have a love-hate relationship with it. So I feel like when I find a book that really talks about someone that loves living in the city so much and like noticing all of the things that like make them so happy and all of the magical parts of the city, because there are so many magical parts about New York City, and it kind of revitalizes my joy for the place. And also New York City truly is brimming with so much life and magic that like when I see that reflected in a book, especially like such a sweet romance and like all these things, I don't know. I don't know what it was about that book, but it really got me and I just cannot get it out of my head. I think about it all the time. I'm gonna do a reread of it in I think April or May of next year and kind of try to just spend as much of the time rereading it as I can, like out in the city, enjoying maybe some spots that are mentioned in the book if that's a thing, and like all the, I don't know, just kind of like trying to be out there and like experiencing the joys of New York City while reading this book again. I'm just really excited. Next prompt is a book with the most unique concept. I read a lot of books this year and I feel like a lot of them could definitely fit for this prompt, but I'm probably going to say Homegoing by Ya Gyasi. That book was like a 6-star read for me. Honestly, probably my favorite book that I read this entire year, which again, it's a literary fiction book, so why am I not reading more literary fiction is my question to myself. 7 Year Slip is probably like number 2 on the list, just as you couldn't tell from me talking about it just now. But the concept of this book is so good. Essentially, it is these women's stories. One of them stays in Ghana and the other one is enslaved and sold to the United States. And every like generation below them for like many, many, many generations. So it's like going back and forth between this woman, her child, their child, their child, their child, their child. And it's just like going back and forth between what it's like to live at the same time period in Ghana versus the United States. And it just goes for years, like up until present day. And it is so good. Like, there are definitely parts that are hard to read, obviously, when talking about slavery. It's just comes with the territory. But in general, the way that this book just, oh my God, the writing is so beautiful. The way that she does it is so smart. Like what she's able to do with this book is so powerful and so interesting and so just good. I don't know how else to describe it. It's such a good book. I literally recommend everyone to read this book. It is so amazing. I don't really know what else to say. That book is a 6-star book in my opinion. Like I have not read a book that like burrowed so deep into my soul and was just like, there we go, babe. I highly, 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 highly recommend it to anyone, especially Americans. It is such an important book to read. If you don't believe in institutionalized racism, let this book change your mind, because this is literally what people are talking about when it comes to Black people having a disadvantage in the United States because literally slavery. Anyways, it's an amazing book. You should read it. Moving on to books that I would reread that I read this year. I kind of just saved this category for all of my 5-star reads for the year, because the reason why I rate a book 5 stars is because I see myself rereading it at some point because it had such an impact on me that I want to re-experience how the book made me feel at some point in the future. So here are all my 5-star reads for the year. I would happily and joyously reread any of these books because they all had an impact on me this year. I am really tough when it comes to rating a book 5 stars because for me, I really need to have those 5-star tinglies, you know what I mean? The sparkly feeling inside of my soul while I'm reading a book. And yes, I did read a lot of romance this year. There was a lot of romance that was read, but moving right along to the next prompt is priorities and goals for my 2025 reading year. I want to diversify. I want to read more authors that I haven't read before. I want to read more genres that I haven't been reading in the past year or so. I feel like I'm finally at the point in my reading journey, or like reacquainting myself with the hobby of reading, that I can finally like feel confident in it and like branch out into just like more genres, more diverse authors, more just like everything. I want to diversify in every sense of the word when it comes to my reading next year. I want to read manga for the first time. I really want to read graphic novels again. I want to read more literary fiction, maybe like a genre that I've been feeling a bit intimidated by, like sci-fi or horror or something. These are types of genres that I don't really read, and just like give them a second shot or a first shot, really, because I don't really read horror at all. And yeah, I want to do a bigger variety of books in 2025 and not be afraid if a book is really dense, or it might be a little slow, or it might be like more classics. I don't know. I read a lot of classics the year before last year, in 2023, I read a lot of classics, and I feel like I read less books because of it. But I also don't want to be afraid of like reading less books just because it doesn't matter what number it is. So like each year I've been upping my reading goal because I wanted to see how far I could push myself. And this year I read well over 50 books. My like official reading goal was 40, but my like secret one was 50 because I was like, I think I can do 50, like I think I can do it. But next year I don't think I want to set a numbered reading goal. Like maybe on the story graph I'll just like mark it as 25 because, you know, 2025, let's just do 25 books, whatever. Obviously I think I'm going to read more than that, and you know, it feels kind of silly to be like, I don't care how many books I read and starting a booktube channel. But at the same time, like, it's really about the quality of the books, not the quantity of the books. And I'm going to be reading more arcs next year, like really getting into my NetGalley and trying to make sure that I can get my stats up for that. I will probably do a whole other video talking about NetGalley and reading arcs and stuff like that if you wanted to get into it, or just explaining how I do it, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited to kind of just like spread my wings and just read to enjoy reading next year, instead of like forcing myself to read a certain amount of books, or also just like sticking to my comfort reads, which is mostly romance. I'm really excited to read more books next year because it's just so much fun. And yeah, I really want to have more variety with books. I want more books to challenge me instead of just like be easy to read at all times, because like I understand that it's fun to like have a level of escapism in your books, but like at the same time, I really love a book that makes me feel something. You know what I mean? Like talks about the human experience, or kind of just like shares something about that in a way that like makes you go, wow, that's really good. Like the way that was put, mwah. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got a few books to maybe add to your TBR for next year, and I will see you in 2025. Oh my gosh. Until then, I'm sending you all my love, because we're all just trying our best out here. Happy reading, everyone!